And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian. Oh boy, do we have a big one this week. The podcast is jam-packed this week, so I'm not even going to waste any time. We're just going to get right to it. Oh man, what a week this was. But before we get to the big news item of the week, and if you've been listening and watching the movie news cycle, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But we're going to wait, because we're going to talk about the big news item that came out after the podcast came out last week, which was equally as big over the weekend when it came out. And that was that according to one of the producers on Spider-Man Homecoming, Venom and Silver and Black, which is a Silver Sable and Black Cat movie, will exist in the new Spider-Man universe. Now it's going to get a little complicated, and no one has come out and said, clear cut, this is what's going on, so we're just going to go off speculation, what we know so far. Or not speculation, what we know so far. That's what I'm going to say. So try to stay with me. So in a recent interview over the weekend, Spider-Man Homecoming producer and former Sony Pictures head Amy Pascal, who actually made the deal possible between Sony and Marvel to share Spider-Man before she stepped down, was in an interview with Kevin Feige, of course, Marvel Studios president and head, revealed what many fans were hoping for when it was announced that this new Spider-Man was going to happen, and when there was a Venom movie in the works, that the two would exist in the same universe. And that's exactly what she said. However, it's still very, very weird and complicated and rights issues. So here's what Pascal, I'm not going to read the whole quote she said, but she did mention that the movies are adjuncts to each other. And let me read a little bit of the quote saying, quote, there may be different locations, but it will still be in the same world, and they will be connected to each other. Those were exact words. Now, of course, the question moved on in saying, will Tom Holland, aka Peter Parker / Spider-Man, be in these movies? And she said that there was a chance. There's always a chance. Now, for those of you that don't know, of course, Sony Pictures still intends to have Spider-Man characters in-house. They do own the movie rights to Spider-Man. So Sony announced not too long ago that they were doing their own connected universe called Sony's Marvel Universe. And the films that they were going to start off with were Silver and Black, again, following the characters of Silver Sable, who is a mercenary who goes and hunts down criminals, and the Black in this case is Black Cat, aka Felicia Hardy, who has a history with Peter Parker in the comics. And of course, the other movie was the rated R Venom movie that has Tom Hardy set to star and Ruben Fleischer, the director of Zombieland, attached to direct. And the idea was that those movies were going to be set within their own universe and not have Spider-Man and Peter Parker, aka basically setting them up to fail or stumble from the start, at least in the eyes of the fans, and a little bit toward me, of course, as well with Venom, because you can't have Venom without Spider-Man. But Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige, literally like a week before this came out, said that Venom would not be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And by the way, if you've not seen the interview video, you should, because Kevin Feige, when Amy Pascal is talking about this and she says it, Kevin Feige is basically just looking at her like, what the hell are you doing? It's the most hilarious thing that you will ever see. It's almost I saw people comparing it to the Ben Affleck sad face when he was being interviewed for Batman v Superman. It's not on that level, but it's almost close to that level. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, he has that face. Like, what the hell? So again, now this is leading, of course, to a lot of questions. One, Sony Pictures, like I said, has the rights to the Spider-Man character, and Tom Holland is signed on to play the character for at least 6 films. 3 of them with Marvel and Disney, of course, the Avengers movies, and 3 of them for Sony. And originally, Pascal said herself, this was, I believe, earlier this year, that Marvel would be a part of the first 2 Spider-Man movies, and that the 3rd Spider-Man movie would be a solo Sony production, unless they made some other sort of deal, or unless the phrasing was off, or they made some new deal that we didn't know about. So that 3rd Spider-Man movie is basically just Sony's. It's not connection to Marvel. At least that's what she said at the beginning. They could change something, or maybe she wasn't quoted properly or whatever. But that's what was said back then. 2, if Venom and Silver and Black are set within the new Spider-Man world, but not the MCU, it could lead to some weird storytelling, because if and when, of course, Holland's contract is expanded, and if Sony and Marvel somehow work out some other big deal to share the character again, these characters, Venom, Silver Sable, Black Cat, and some others that we'll mention in just a second, in the second update, the update and the second part of the story, they still won't be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Well, Tom Holland will, but not these characters. That will just be a part of the Sony Marvel Universe. So even though there could potentially star these Venom, Black Cat, Silver Sable, if they can potentially star Tom Holland, it's not a done deal just yet. And moreover, and probably the most important part, people are going to assume that these characters are part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe anyway, because you have Spider-Man in the Marvel movies. A lot of people don't. I mean, some people probably do, some people probably don't, but now that you have Spider-Man in these movies, unless they go and research on the internet or hear these stories, they're just going to assume that Venom, Black Cat, Silver Sable are part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Unless you flat out say, in the Spider-Man movies, who the hell is Eddie Brock? I don't know who that is. Unless they do that. And I don't think they're going to do that. And the Marvel movies certainly won't mention Venom, Silver Sable, or Black Cat, because that's not those aren't their characters. So is this a step in the right direction? This first part of the story that we're going to talk about. Yes, of course it is. Having a Venom movie without at least the potential of not starring Peter Parker or Spider-Man is a really dumb idea. But at least there is a potential now of having those characters together. And also take away the fact that Venom is going to be rated R. I don't know how they're going to, do that, but just, even if he's in the background or something, I think maybe, I don't know if that may be enough for some people, but we'll obviously see how they're gonna do it. So it's very I mean, when this was announced, everyone was like, yeah, this is awesome. This is great. Finally. But then, after we, have that knee-jerk fan reaction, we have to sit back and think about wait a minute, the rights issues. So that was really hard. So the update to this story, which came out this week, so technically this is a this week news item, is that Carnage will appear in the Venom movie as a villain, and Sony is also working on spin-offs to other villain characters, the ones they specifically mentioned, Mysterio and Kraven the Hunter. According to The Hollywood Reporter, they have an in-depth article about the Sony Marvel deal, which I will link down below in the description/show notes area. If you want to go read that, I do recommend you read it. It's actually not that bad of a read. It was reported that Carnage will feature as a villain in the movie. And for those who don't know the character, Carnage, a fan favorite character, by the way, he's kind of like Venom. He was a regular person, actually not necessarily a regular person. He was a serial killer called Cletus Cassidy, who got affected by a part of Venom's symbiote, but made him different. And symbiote, by the way, is an alien parasite, for those of you who are not familiar with Spider-Man lore. So he becomes a serial killer, and he shares a prison cell with Eddie Brock, and that's how he gets affected. Of course, Eddie Brock is the first Venom that we know. So he basically has the same powers as Venom and Spider-Man. He can make webs, but he has super strength. He can shapeshift his arms into weapons. And instead of being all black and white like Venom, he's all red with shades of black throughout his body. So he's a really cool character. He's a fan favorite character, and one that people have been dying to see on the big screen. I know I've been dying to see him on the big screen, so it should be pretty cool if they have them together. Of course, we have to see how they do Venom first. I mean, having Tom Hardy, yeah, sure, that's great, but you can have an A-list and great actor in a shitty movie, and it won't make a difference. So anyway, buried in the report as well was that Sony Pictures was working on other spin-offs, like I mentioned, a spin-off for the villain Mysterio and Kraven the Hunter. Now, Mysterio, for those of you guys who don't know, is a master of illusions. He worked in Hollywood before becoming a villain. That's kind of his backstory. And Kraven the Hunter, he's a game hunter, obviously. He believes that Spider-Man is the greatest game in the world, so he starts hunting Spider-Man. And with all these villain spin-offs, It was kind of hinted at from the article, because they did mention this. All the villain spin-offs, of course, the exception of Silver Sable and Black Cat. It looks like Sony still kind of wants to do a Sinister Six movie, because there was a Sinister Six movie in the works over at Sony when the Amazing Spider-Man movies were being made, and obviously that didn't happen because Amazing Spider-Man 2 underperformed on a lot of levels, and no one was really excited for Spider-Man, so they kind of canceled the Sinister Six movie, of course, along with that brand of the Spider-Man movies, before they, of course, retooled it with Marvel in tow. But they had a director set already, and it became this really big mess. And now it seems like they want to do it all over again with these new spin-off characters. I mean, having, Kraven and Mysterio and potentially Carnage or Venom, that could be kind of cool. The thing is, for me, I like the idea of having Mysterio and Kraven the Hunter on the big screen, especially Kraven the Hunter. I've actually been dying to see him on the big screen. But I would have loved to see them connected to the actual Spider-Man movies through the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not through Sony Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's just, I would have loved, especially with Kraven, because you have that different dynamic. You have the kid, the teenager, the guy in high school, being hunted down by this big, burly, older man who calls himself Kraven the Hunter to capture people. So I thought that would have been pretty interesting. So I don't know how they're just in the works. They're in development. Doesn't mean they're gonna happen. They're not officially greenlit, so we don't have to worry about that too soon. But yeah, I mean that's the idea. So also buried in the report, Michael Keaton's contract to play Vulture is only for one film, which is pretty standard for a lot of these villain roles, especially in Marvel movies. And Robert Downey Jr. will not return for the Spider-Man Homecoming sequel. Instead, the sequel to Spider-Man will feature another character from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, although it didn't say who or hint at who it could be. So that's up there. That's up there in the mystery as well. So a lot going on with all this. So we have Venom being connected to the Spider-Man world they're creating, but not the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Then you have Carnage being added to the movie, which is great. Then you have these spin-offs in the works. You have Tom Holland, who could potentially star in these spin-offs. I just wish that someone will come out clearly and say this is the case. And Kevin Feige pretty much flat out said Venom is not a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So he pretty much said that. So Venom will probably stick to the Sony side of things. And again, if the deal on the contract for Marvel to be involved in the Sony Pictures Spider-Man movies is only for 2 films, then that third film Sony can do whatever they want. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. And again, people are still going to think these characters are involved in the MCU regardless. Doesn't matter if they know about the rights or not. So that was big news on the hit this week. And then, of course, that second part that hit this week, everyone was kind of freaking out as well. People are still, spectacle about spectacle. That's not the word I want to use. They're still uneasy about the Venom movie because of what's going on, and I agree with them. So, all right, let's move on to trailer talk. I know I've been building up this news item from earlier that I mentioned earlier, but we'll get to that after the trailer talk. So there's a few trailers that dropped this week. The first one was Annabelle Creation. It's a new trailer for the Annabelle movie. Brings a lot more scares in here. If you're already excited for Annabelle, I probably recommend not watch this trailer, because the trailer does give away some probably real good scares that would have been awesome to see on the big screen for the first time. So there is that. It's a good trailer. It's just there are probably some scares there that I would have liked to see for the first time on the big screen. The next trailer was the first trailer for the PTSD drama Thank You for Your Service. And it's based on journalist David Finkel's 2013 nonfiction book of the same name, and tells the story of a few soldiers returning home from Iraq who struggle to integrate back into their family and civilian life. The film is directed by Jason Hall, who makes his directorial debut after writing American Sniper. The film, of course, came out a couple years ago. The film stars Miles Teller and Haley Bennett, of course, among others, and opens on October 27th. The trailer doesn't look that bad. I think it's a good trailer. I think people have their opinions about Miles Teller, and of course Miles Teller was in the news for another reason this week, but we'll leave that for the gossip sites and all that. But Miles Teller, when he's given great material, he shines. He's a great actor. He's a great actor when he wants to be, and he's given great material. So I can't wait to watch this. It looks pretty good. It comes out in October, so maybe there'll be some Oscar consideration. Who knows? We'll see. Let's move on to the next trailer. The new trailer for... actually, there was 2 trailers that came out this week. One was a green band, and the other one was a red band trailer for the new film American Assassin, starring Dylan O'Brien. The movie's based off a novel by Vince Flynn, and a potential start for a new franchise. It follows Mitch Rapp, played by Daniel O'Brien, from the Maze Runner movies and the MTV show Teen Wolf, who was enlisted by a secret government group run by CIA Deputy Director Irene Kennedy, played by, I always mispronounce her name, Sienna Lathan, I think that's how you say it, and Cold War veteran Stan Hurley, played by Michael Keaton, to help track down whoever is planning a wave of random attacks on both civilian and military targets. The film also stars Taylor Kitsch, and this movie comes out on September 15th. This doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's the first teaser. The first teaser. It's a teaser, I guess. It didn't do too much for me. It got me a little bit excited, but this new trailer, it gives a lot more story. We actually get to see Taylor Kitsch in this. In the teaser, we only saw one glimpse of him, and it was almost like an afterthought, like, oh, Taylor Kitsch is in this movie too, guys. But this trailer, no, Taylor Kitsch is, we see him. It looks like he's playing the villain in this movie, or at least another kind of side villain character, and it looks pretty good. It looks like a fun little new action thriller, kind of not want to say Jason Bourne, but kind of maybe more like The Accountant in a way. That's kind of how I got from. That's kind of how the trailer feels a little bit, but it looks good. I mean, the Red Band trailer, obviously, Red Band trailers show a lot more blood and all the language and stuff like that. So. The Red Band trailer does have I think it has like a few more tidbits from the Green Band that are obviously Red Band trailer material. Looks like there's gonna be a lot of blood in this movie, so I'm actually not. Actually, this trailer kind of convinced me to go, go out and see this movie opening week. So there's there's American Assassin by Dylan with Dylan O'Brien, I should say. The next trailer is the first trailer for the biopic of Thurgood Marshall's life, called Marshall.
You gentlemen are making a big mistake.
This here is Mr. Thurgood Marshall. Man is an attorney. You will treat him with the respect that he deserves.
My great-granddaddy, he was a slave. We're not slaves now, are we? We've got weapons we didn't have before. We've got the law.
Baby, you go into these towns who've never seen a Negro lawyer.
Hey, Bart!
You need to be careful.
NAACP.
Thurgood, you're going to Connecticut.
Joseph Spell, Negro servant, attacked socialite in her own bedroom.
This case will show the world if a colored man can get a fair trial in the United States.
There's only 13 million Negroes depending on you.
Don't any of you have any confidence in me?
I'd say you have enough confidence for us all.
I only represent innocent people, people accused because of their race. That's my mission.
I never touched that woman.
I need a partner who the jury can relate to.
Sam Friedman.
Good to meet you, Sam. Hey, give me a hand with these, would you?
What have you got in here, cement?
Guns. Books, Mr. Friedman.
I had homies in the 11th grade doing gun trades. You just sweep through town, stirring up all kinds of ugliness. My life is on the line here.
Hey, Attorney Friedman, hold on a minute.
What do you want? You're one of us now, Sam. A real fighter.
Step away, you can't take the heat on the battleground.
Neither of them have been telling us the truth.
He attacked me!
I'd advise him to accept the deal.
You lied in a sworn statement. Why would you do that?
Why'd I lie? Because the truth gets me killed.
You can't deny me now. Tunnel vision.
If you want freedom,
Tie me down on a mission.
you're gonna have to fight for it.
Stop me now.
The only way to get through a bigot's door is to break it down.
The biopic is about the first African-American Supreme Court Justice, Thurgood Marshall, played by Chadwick Boseman in the movie, and the film follows the case of a black chauffeur. I can't speak now. Joseph Spell, played by Sterling K. Brown, accused by his white employee Eleanor Sterling, played by Kate Hudson, of sexual assault and attempted murder. Marshall fought the case alongside with Sam Friedman, played by Josh Gad in this movie, a young attorney with no experience in criminal law. And the movie comes out on October 13th. This looks pretty good. It does. It looks really good. I thought the trailer was very strong. It's a great trailer, and obviously I think most people probably know Thurgood Marshall's life from the Brown versus Board of Education case, which actually made him kind of a household name. But this case takes place before that, so this is, you kind of see that a little bit, and they mentioned that in the trailer too, with like a title card. But I'm glad they didn't go with the Brown versus Board of Education case. They went with something before that, and it looks really good. I mean, Chadwick Boseman is like the king of biopics. He's played Jackie Robinson already. He's played James Brown, and now he's playing Thurgood Marshall, and I think there's a reason for that. I think he has a demanding presence on screen, and you see that in this trailer too. Like, he doesn't really care. It's like it's almost like Black Panther. I don't care. It's kind of like that. He kind of has that attitude, and he's not afraid to go out and potentially get killed for taking cases that could kill him, especially in this little town where it's mostly filled with white people. Of course, this takes place back when he was young, so there was a very strong racism. I think it takes place, I don't want to say Alabama, I don't think that's right, but it takes place, where obviously there was predominantly white people, and there was just a scatter amount of, I think they say how many black people are in the county that he's going in. But it's a great trailer. If you want to go watch, I highly recommend it. So the final trailer that came out this week, at least at the time of this recording, of course, you never know what trailers might drop. The first trailer for the true story film Stronger, starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Tatiana Maslany from BBC's Orphan Black. Like I said, the film is a true story. It is about a man who became a symbol of heroism and strength after losing both of his legs during the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing. The film will focus on the event affecting him, him being the man played by Jake Gyllenhaal, and his ex-girlfriend played by Maslany, who was running the marathon at the time. This is based off a book, I believe. I didn't write that down. Jeff Bauman, that's the guy's name. But I think it's based off a book that was written, and it will be coming out on September 22nd. This looks great. This looks really great. Jake Gyllenhaal is arguably one of the best actors working today. And if you don't watch Orphan Black on BBC America, Tatiana Maslany's she plays six different roles. She plays a clone in the show, and she's great. And you just lose yourself. You don't know, you know exactly who she's playing. You never feel like, oh, she's someone else playing someone else. No, she's that character every time. So this is great. It looks like a powerhouse drama, and I can't wait to watch it. I honestly can't. Alright, so those are the trailers this week. If you want to go check those out for yourselves, you guys know what to do. If you listen to this podcast long enough, all you gotta do is go down to the description/show notes area, and there'll be links down there to check them out. Alright, let's move on to this week's news items. Oh man. Now, I would usually build up to a news item this big, but no, fuck that. Alright, no, yeah, I know I swore. I've already sworn in the podcast. I'm gonna swear on this podcast, especially with this news item. So fuck that. Phil Lord and Chris Miller have, at first it was dropped out, and now it seems like they were fired from all the reports from the young Han Solo film.
God fucking damn it!
Son of a bitch!
Because of, wait for it, creative differences. And despite the huge change, Disney and Lucasfilm still intend on sticking with their Memorial Day 2008 release date. Or 2018, I should say, release date. Because they've missed it if it was 2008. So Disney released a statement first from Kathleen Kennedy, the head of Lucasfilm, saying this, quote, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are talented filmmakers who have assembled an incredible cast and crew, and it's become clear that we had different creative visions on this film. And we've decided to part ways. A new director will be announced soon. Lord and Miller then came out and released a joint statement saying, unfortunately, our vision and process weren't aligned with our partners on this project. We normally aren't fans of the phrase creative differences, but for once this cliche is true. We are really proud of the amazing and world-class work of our cast and crew. Now this is pretty shocking and troubling to some, if not a lot, of effect. Sure, directors leave projects all the time. It's not rare that, directors leave projects. Sometimes directors leave projects midway through. Pixar is like one of the ones that I'm thinking about automatically. I think it was Brave. They lost a director like halfway through production, or I think they're already done voice editing and they kicked her out or something. And The Good Dinosaur was another one. Ratatouille had some problems too. So of course, owned by Disney, it's under the Disney umbrella. But it doesn't happen for a movie like this when you're knee-deep in production and almost at the finish line. Because this movie was shooting since January, late January at that. And according to the sources and the reports that have come out, there were at least 3 weeks of filming left, with reshoots, 5 weeks worth of reshoots scheduled for later in the summer. Those were already set to go. That was a part of the deal. Now, of course, Star Wars is no stranger to issues. We talked about the issues with Rogue One here on the podcast, and that was also a really big news item when it came out. Tony Gilroy came in to help rewrite and help oversee extensive reshoots with Gareth Edwards over that, but that kind of came out well. Rogue One was still a good movie. I mean, it was a different movie from the first trailers that we saw, and apparently from what was going to happen. Force Awakens had some production troubles too. Not as extensive as this, but they had troubles. And of course, the prequel movies have had production troubles. But we don't speak of those, so we're just going to move past that. However, and that was the news item. However, the next day, it came out the reasons why Phil Lord and Chris Miller will let go. And this is where they were fired, not they left because of creative differences phrasing came in. So according to, there was 3 different sections of this news. So according to Variety, the split was because of Lord and Miller's improvisational style, which clashed with how producer and again Lucasfilm head Kathleen Kennedy liked to keep her sets, which were tightly controlled. And a source said this to Variety, saying, quote, it was a culture clash from day one. She didn't even like the way they folded their socks. That's an actual quote from someone, which is a weird way of, saying that she didn't like the way they shot. But if you kind of, look deeper a little bit, you can kind of tell what that quote was trying to say. Now, the outlet Variety continued with the same sources information that said, quote, the source said that while Lord and Miller were supposedly hired for their vision and distinctive brand of filmmaking when it came to the Star Wars production, Kennedy did not approve of their shooting style and process of interacting with actors and crew, saying they weren't given the leeway to do what they wanted to do, end quote, from the source and from Variety. So that was what Variety said. And then Hollywood Reporter came out and added to the story saying that Lord and Miller clashed with co-writer and executive producer Lawrence Kasdan, who has been a part of the Star Wars franchise since the very beginning. And I'm talking the original movies, 4 through 6. Now the Hollywood Reporters, the Hollywood Reporter had their own source, and their source told them that Lord and Miller's views of Han Solo clashed with what Kasdan wanted, saying, quote, people need to understand that Han Solo is not a comedic personality. He's sarcastic and selfish, end quote. And of course, they went on to say that Kennedy backed her longtime colleague over the directors on this, which is fine. So that was the Hollywood Reporter's side. Then, Mike Sampson, the former editor-in-chief at Screen Crush, tweeted out that he had heard that Kennedy felt that the movie wasn't Star Warsy enough, whatever that means, so she wanted to bring in a director to do reshoots like she did on Rogue One. However, Lord and Miller refused letting another director come in to retool their movie. While apparently, quote, everyone, end quote, loved what Lord and Miller were trying to do, it didn't fit with the studio's vision, and because of that, Lord and Miller stuck to their guns, they were unfortunately let go from the project. So there you have it. Lord and Miller were fired because they had a different style than what Kathleen Kennedy and everyone else at Lucasfilm wanted. Okay, that happens. Again, creative differences, that happens, right? Sure. How the fuck did this happen so late in the game? You had 3 weeks left of filming. And if this was a problem since day one, why did you let it get to this point? That makes absolutely no sense to me. You want to have creative differences? Fine. That's fine. I mean, we talk about creative differences all the time in the podcast. We talk about that. We mostly talk about it with the DCEU because the Flash can't have a director to save its life. Speaking of the Flash, we'll talk about the Flash in a second. But how does this happen? How does this get to this point? If you had a problem with these guys since day one, then take care of them in the first week or two. Or sit them down and say, hey, this is what we want from you guys. Not, hey, film, 3/4 of the movie, or film, the good chunk of the movie, and then fire them 3 weeks before principal photography. That makes absolutely no fucking sense to me. It doesn't. And actually infuriates me a little bit that they let it get to that point. And it's becoming a problem. Like I said, we talk about it with the Flash. It's becoming a problem now because now, studios are hiring directors and firing them over creative differences. And I get it. You hire a director, they pitch you an idea. And this is the other thing. They pitch their idea to Lucasfilm to hire them. How do you not? It had to be in their pitch to be like, hey, this is what we wanted. Let us, this is how you want to, this is how we envision the character. Are you okay with this? Yeah, sure. Okay, fine. And it's not even like Lord and Miller were writing the script in secret because Lawrence Kasdan and his son Joe Kasdan were the ones writing the script. I don't get, again, I get that, directors drop out and people leave. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Creative differences happen. But to get to the point where it was that you were fighting them since day one and you're firing them 3 weeks before filming's done, that just aggravates me. It aggravates me, and I wasn't even involved in it. Now, granted, I will say that Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm and Disney, they were in the right. This is their movie. This is their property. They can do, if they don't see the directors doing what they want, they can fire them. That's fine. It's their property. They can do what they want. We may not like the decision, but they can do this because it's their movie. Is it a good decision to do this? No, it's not. How do I put this? I guess, when it came to the idea of a young Han Solo movie, I was a little hesitant. I know a lot of fans were a little hesitant on seeing potentially where this could go. I know a lot of fans probably didn't want to see a young Han Solo movie. I think a lot of fans were very resistant to the idea. But once Phil Lord and Chris Miller were attached, a lot of fans were happy about it because we know Phil Lord and Chris Miller's style. We know their movies. If those of you guys don't know their movies, they directed Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, the Jump Street movies, and the Lego movie. I almost said Lego Batman, but they didn't have anything to do with Lego Batman, just the Lego movie. So they're not like pushover directors. They're not directors doing this for the first time. They know what they're doing, and you know their style because you hired them. It just, I don't know. It bothered me when I read that. I had the knee-jerk reaction, what the hell's going on? What the fuck? But at the same time, it's like, okay, I got over it, and I thought, okay, maybe there's more to it. We're not in the meetings, we're not in the room. We can speculate all we want, but it just bothered me when I read that. All right, so again, the movie still intends to make its Memorial Day 2018 release. Of course, with Phil Lord and Chris Miller gone, and with the announcement they were going to find a director soon, they did. They actually did. They found a director, Ron Howard, will come in to finish directing the young Han Solo movie. The news comes from The Hollywood Reporter, who said that, quote, Howard is considered to be the safe choice to complete the task, someone who will more than ably finish the movie while being a calm presence on set. The outlet also says that Howard will meet with the actors soon to, quote, soothe a rattled set and will pore over a rough edit to see what the project has and still needs. Press release that released this information also informed us that filming will resume on July 10th, as stated, Disney and Lucasfilm still intend on keeping their Memorial Day 2018 release, which is May 25th, 2018. Ron Howard, I like Ron Howard. Ron Howard's a good choice, but he's not Phil Lord, Chris Miller. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Of course, the movie will star Alden Ehrenreich as the young Han Solo, Woody Harrelson, Emilia Clarke, Donald Glover, and amongst many others as well. So, I don't know. Well, we'll see. What do you guys think? Let me know. What do you guys think of all this craziness? So now that Phil Lord and Chris Miller are no longer with the young Han Solo movie, there was a report from The Wrap that Phil Lord and Chris Miller actually met with Warner Brothers to potentially go back to the studio and direct The Flash. According to The Wrap, the two being Lord and Miller, of course, met with Warner Brothers during a production hiatus on Han Solo about possibly directing the Flash movie. Now, if you remember, Lord and Miller were actually the first people on board with the Flash movie. They came in 2015 because they wrote the script for the movie, the first script, and they were eyeing to direct a movie before they jumped ship to direct the Han Solo movie. Now, let's not get our hopes up for this. It's not a done deal that they will direct the Flash, because we all know the Flash can't keep a director to save their lives. Seth Grahame-Smith and Rick Famuyiwa, they all left because of creative differences. Yes, creative differences. Since then, we've learned that, of course, Robert Zemeckis was considered to be the front runner to direct the project to some extent, but he is off filming another movie, but I guess the idea was he was going to go direct that movie, and then he was going to come back and direct The Flash. Only time will tell, but if Lord and Miller could return to direct The Flash, I think that'd be kind of cool. I think their style fits The Flash, at least from the little bits of him we've seen in the Justice League trailer. So, yeah. Phil Lord and Chris Miller are, they're free. It's not like they got stuff to do now. So, yeah. And Phil Lord and Chris Miller will pop up again later in the podcast. But yeah, there you go. What a week, right? Man. At first, it just really agitated me, and then I started reading what happened, and, I don't know. I don't know anymore. All right, let's move on to the rest of the news week. The rest of the week that was. So we're just gonna breeze right past them. XXX4 is in the works. Do you care? I kind of don't care anymore. So XXX4 is in the works. No word yet on who the director or writer is, but there is. We can assume that Vin Diesel will be back for that. There is a new Saw movie. Originally it was called Saw Legacy, but now it will be called Jigsaw, and that will be coming out later this year on October 27th. Tobin Bell will return somehow, but that franchise is still kicking. So there's that. Something we do care about, Jurassic World 2. Jurassic World 2 has released a new poster, and it's actually released the title of the movie. It will be called Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. It's a very interesting name, but that is the name of the movie. It also has a tagline in the poster, very convenient and not very convenient, but very worthy of the movie. The tagline is "Life Finds a Way." Which, of course, if you're a fan of the Jurassic Park series, you know exactly who said that quote. And yes, that person will be back for Jurassic World 2. The movie will come out on June 22nd next year. They are currently filming. I think they're almost done filming, to be honest, from what I remember. So, yeah, we'll talk about more about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, of course, when more news is available. Let's move on to the next news item. Warner Brothers is finally doing something with their Twilight Zone movie they've been working on for so long, way back since 2009. Warner Bros. Has found a writer for their movie, Christine Lavoff, I think that's how you say her last name. She will write the script for the movie. Like I said, the project's been in the works since 2009, and the last update we heard was back in 2013 when Joseph Kosinski was in talks to direct the film, but obviously he kind of didn't do that. He passed on it. Of course, the film will be based off the old and classic TV series that mashed genres like fantasy, sci-fi, and horror, and still scares the crap out of some people to this day. There was a Twilight Zone movie made back in 1983, directed by John Landis. Yeah, John Landis. I don't know why I felt like I was saying his name weird, but that featured 4 separate storylines. The idea for this film, from what we're told, at least from what the report is, they could change stuff. Obviously, it's been in development since 2009. Stuff can change, but the idea is that this film could follow one single storyline. So be aware of that. And as for the writer, she's relatively new in Hollywood. She actually is in the writer's room for Godzilla 2, but she's been selling some TV pilots for TV. This will probably be her biggest project to date, right, of course, next to Godzilla 2. Corey Stoll and Kyle Chandler join the Neil Armstrong biopic First Man, and Jason Clarke is in talks to join the film. Damien Chazelle's next movie, no, it's not La La Land 2, settle down, is a biopic on Neil Armstrong called First Man, and has added Corey Stoll and Kyle Chandler, and of course, like I just mentioned, Jason Clarke is in talks to join the film. The film already has Ryan Gosling attached to play Neil Armstrong, and now Stoll, who has joined the cast, will play Buzz Aldrin. Kyle Chandler will play Deke Slayton. He was an engineer and test pilot who was selected as one of the original NASA Mercury 7 astronauts, and of course later on became the NASA first chief of astronauts office. When it comes to Clarke, if he signs on, he will play Ed White, aka the first American to walk in space. So there's that. The film is based on James Henson's biography, First Man, The Life of Neil A. Armstrong. It tells the story of NASA's mission to land a man on the moon, focusing on Armstrong during the years of 1961 to 1969. A first-person account, the movie will explore the sacrifices and the costs on Armstrong and on America for one of the most dangerous space missions in history. First Man will be released on October 12th, 2018, meaning the film will start shooting sometime this fall. Moving on to the next news item, Paul Feig's next movie will be a thriller called A Simple Favor, and eyes Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively to star. The film is expected to start shooting this August and follows a mommy blogger in a small town and her best friend who suddenly vanishes. The film is based off a book by Darcy Bell, and obviously will be a change of pace for Paul Feig, who is, of course, mostly known for his comedies. So this will be a nice little change of pace for him. So this could be kind of cool. Moving on, Jack Black says that Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle will feature a tribute to Robin Williams' character from the first movie. Now, I know a lot of people are still unsure about the new Jumanji movie, which is, again, titled Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. The film won't be a reboot or a remake, but a spiritual sequel from the first film. The first film, of course, brought the game to the real world. This movie will take place within the game itself. And Jack Black is playing one of the characters within the game, along with, of course, the cast of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Karen Gillan, Kevin Hart, Nick Jonas is in there as well, and apparently the movie will have a tribute to Robin Williams. Jack Black was speaking with a Hollywood Reporter on over a phone conference, and so the film will have a tribute to Williams' character Alan Parrish, saying, quote, "We're exploring this jungle and trying to conquer the game. It's life or death, but while we're there, we find clues left behind by Williams' character, Alan Parrish. He built up a full-blown jungle house similar to a Swiss Family Robinson situation. It's like he's helping us without actually being there." So it's a nice little tribute. I think that would be kind of cool. Obviously, they were going to do some sort of tribute to Robin Williams. They had to, especially if the film is taking place within the game itself. Obviously, if you watch the original, Robin Williams' character was stuck within the game for many years as well. So this movie, Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, will open at the end of the year this year on December 20th. So we'll talk about that, of course, when we get closer to the release date. The animated Spider-Man movie adds the voices of Brian T. Henry and Mahershala Ali. The animated Spider-Man movie will feature Miles Morales as Spider-Man and has added two names to the voice cast, like I just mentioned. FX Atlantis star Brian T. Henry and Oscar winner Mahershala Ali. They will now join the already cast voice cast of Shameik Moore. He was in Dope and he was in Netflix's The Get Down. He will voice Miles Morales, and Liev Schreiber will voice the unnamed villain in the movie. They haven't named him yet, so we don't know what's going on with that. Henry will voice Miles' detective father, Jefferson Davis, while Ali will voice Miles' uncle, Aaron Davis, who loves his nephew, but is in the wrong side of the law. So we can probably assume where that will kind of go story-wise. The script, like I mentioned earlier, we're not done talking about Phil Lord and Chris Miller. The script is done by Phil Lord himself, while Phil Lord will also co-produce the movie with Chris Miller. So they're not out of the woodwork of big budget movies just yet. For those that don't know, Miles Morales, by the way, is a half black, half Latino teenager who adopts the mantle of Spider-Man after Peter Parker hands it over to him in the Ultimates line of the comics. If you don't know what the Ultimates line is, for all you non-comic book readers, just think of it as kind of like a different dimension. Put it that way. Or ask your nerdy comic book friend. The film currently does have a release date of December 14th of next year. So obviously we'll be talking more about that when more stuff gets released. Geoff Johns says that he and Patty Jenkins are writing and working on Wonder Woman 2. If you haven't seen Wonder Woman yet, what the hell is wrong with you? Go watch it. It's good. But anyway, it's a massive success and of course continues to grow. Of course, after the success of the film, sequel talks started up, as it should be, and it was revealed that Patty Jenkins has now officially signed on to direct a Wonder Woman 2. But it looks like she at least is attached to working on the sequel because DC Films co-head Geoff Johns spoke to Variety and said that him and Jenkins are working on Wonder Woman at the moment, saying, quote, "Patty and I are writing the treatment right now. The goal is to make another great Wonder Woman film. I had a blast making it with Patty the first time. We've got a cool idea for the second one." Now, it doesn't mean that Jenkins is officially attached to Wonder Woman 2, because Wonder Woman 2 isn't officially greenlit. I think there was something about waiting to see how Justice League does to see if they were going to move forward with that. But we'll see. Geoff Johns, like I said, he spoke to Variety. They have an article, big interview article with him. That will also be linked down below in the description/show notes area if you want to go read that for yourself. He also talks about the DCU as a whole. If you want to go check it out, there's some pretty cool quotes and some promising stuff in there. So go check it out. All right, next news item: the Godzilla sequel starts filming. Its full cast has been revealed, and there may be a title change. Now, production on the Godzilla sequel is officially underway as Warner Bros. And Legendary Pictures released a press release revealing the cast and a new synopsis for the movie. One change is notable, and it is the fact that the press release does not reveal the name of the movie. Originally, the film has been called, so far up to now, Godzilla King of the Monsters. But the press release, like I mentioned, makes no mention of it, so there could be a title change. We don't know yet. The film will be directed by Michael Doug Hardy, who also co-wrote the film with Zach Shields, who also helped him write Krampus. I know a lot of you probably just rolled your eyes, but Krampus isn't that bad. Settle down. But if you haven't seen Trick or Treat by Michael Doug Hardy, I highly recommend you do. It's a great horror anthology movie. Anyway, the new synopsis reads as followed, saying, quote, "The new story follows the heroic efforts of the cryptozoologic agency Monarch as its members face off against a battery of god-sized monsters, including the mighty Godzilla, who collides with Mothra, Rodan, and his ultimate nemesis, the three-headed King Ghidorah." I think that's how you say it. I always mispronounce King Ghidorah. I think that's how you say it. Ghidorah. I don't know. But you know what I mean. It's the three-headed monster. Anyway, the synopsis goes on. When these ancient super species, thought to be mere myths rise again. They all vie for supremacy, leaving humanity's very existence hanging in the balance. And we can probably assume that Ken Watanabe is somewhere on a cliff saying, "Let them fight."
Let them fight.
The cast is jam-packed with big names like Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things, Kyle Chandler, Vera Farmiga, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Bradley Whitford, Thomas Middleditch, Zhang Ziyi, as we've talked about last week on the podcast. I think it was last week, yeah. Charles Dance, Sally Hawkins, and Ken Watanabe. Of course, their roles will probably be small compared to the massive monster carnage that is promised. We got Mothra, we got Rodan, we got King Ghidorah. We probably got some other creatures going to be in there probably. And we got, of course, Godzilla, because why the hell not, right? We gotta have all of them. This movie's gonna be awesome. It better be awesome. With all this is promising to be awesome. It better be awesome. Of course, this is part of the MonsterVerse over at Warner Brothers that includes of course, Kong Skull Island, and speaking of King Kong, of course, this will lead to Godzilla vs. Kong, not Kong vs. Godzilla. It's Godzilla vs. Kong that will be directed by Adam Wingard. That will be coming out, I believe, in 2020. Yes, it'll be coming out in 2020. As for this film, Godzilla 2, or whatever it will be called, will open on March 22nd, 2019. So we got a long ways to go, but I think it'll be worth it when you finally see all these creatures on the big screen. Alright, let's move on. The Bumblebee spin-off is being compared to the Iron Giant by one of the producers, and it will be set in 1985. With Transformers: The Dark Knight already out in theaters and getting trashed by pretty much everyone, all eyes are on what the future holds for the Transformers franchise, one of them being the spin-off to the fan favorite Bumblebee. The film already has a writer, Christina Hodson, a director in Travis Knight, who is the Lenka CEO and made his directorial debut with Kubo and the Two Strings. This, of course, will be his live-action directorial debut, and has Haley Steinfeld eyed to star in the movie. Now we have some idea on what the film could be about, at least tone-wise. Producer Lorenzo Di Bonaventura had this statement talking about the spin-off, saying, quote, "I know we're doing a spin-off first in the Bumblebee movie, and that is a very distinctive departure from what we've seen so far. The objective of that movie is to develop more time with less robots in a way, and go back to 1985, and go back to the sort of original heritage, if we would, of the Transformers, G1. Now, of course, G1 is a reference to the first generation, Generation 1 of Transformers. 1985 is a good year, too, because not only is that a good year probably to set the movie, it is also, I believe, a year or the year, I don't know if it was the year or the year after the toy line came out for the Generation 1 toys. So, of course, the golden days, the good days of Transformers. I remember those. Good day. I wasn't even born yet, but I know those are good, the better days of Transformers. So when it comes to the quote-unquote less robots line, Di Bonaventura said that we hired purposefully Travis Knight, who is a very distinctive filmmaker. We can't compete with Michael. You can't compete with Michael. You're going to lose. And also, I think the audience wants something different all the time. Let's keep them interested. They're going to get a very emotional, complex story, a very tight story in terms of its location, in terms of storytelling. He finally let out his last statement saying, quote, "In fact, it reminds me a little bit of Iron Giant years ago. When I did that movie at Warner Bros., it just reminds me a little bit of where it was very contained and yet didn't feel small." Whatever that means. Of course, Bumblebee is a fan favorite character, and going back in time, the 1985 route, again, not having seen Transformers the last night, I don't know what they did with the Bumblebee character just yet, but I don't know. I don't know if I kind of like the idea or don't like the idea. I'm over Transformers as a whole. I'm just over it. I don't care anymore. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Also, the Iron Giant comparison is a bit eye-raising, just because you want to, like, it's not like we're gonna see Bumblebee die, because we know he's still alive in the new movies. So, not that the Iron Giant dies in the old one, but I haven't seen the Iron Giant, by the way. First of all, shame on you. That shouldn't even be a spoiler, because you should have seen it by now. If you haven't seen it yet, shame on you. Go watch it. That's your homework for the weekend. Go watch Iron Giant. But I don't know. I'm just over the Transformers, so I don't even know if I will be interested in seeing a Bumblebee movie. I like Travis Knight. I like what he did with Kubo and the Two Strings. That was one of my favorite animated movies last year. So I don't know. The Bumblebee spinoff will come out on June 8th, 2018. So they're going to start filming soon. So we'll probably be hearing a lot more of Bumblebee soon on the podcast. So be ready for that. All right, let's get to this week's final news item of the week, at least at the time of this recording. Obviously, if something big drops, you guys can go to the Facebook page, but I'll get to that after I do this news item. Daniel Day-Lewis is retiring from acting. This is pretty big. The 3-time Oscar winner and probably one of the best actors working today, Daniel Day-Lewis, has retired. The 60-year-old actor has had an amazing career, obviously, and only has one film set to come out in December later this year with director Paul Thomas Anderson, which I believe is set within the world of fashion. There's not too much information about the film. The news comes from Variety, who got news from a person familiar with the plan, with his plans, with Daniel Day-Lewis' plans. He does intend on helping promote the film when it comes out, but after that, he's done. He doesn't give a reason for his retirement, but Daniel Day-Lewis' spokesperson, Leslie Dart, did release a statement saying, quote, Daniel Day-Lewis will no longer be working as an actor. He is immensely grateful to all of his collaborators and audiences over the many years. This is a private decision, and neither he nor his representatives will make any further comment on the subject. This is kind of huge. This is pretty big. Daniel Day-Lewis was always a force of nature. He was great. Like I said, he was one of the greatest actors working today. He's probably one of the greatest actors ever. You know, anytime he popped up on screen, you know you were going to get a great performance. He was a method actor. He took his craft very seriously. You know, a lot of people said that he started playing. You know, he didn't drop character even when the director called cut. He was always in character on set, and he researched all his roles to the T, and that probably could take it out of you. And Daniel Day-Lewis was a very picky actor as well. He was a very picky actor. There'd be years where we wouldn't see him, and then he'd just pop up on the screen. It's like, oh, that's Daniel Day-Lewis. Now, this isn't the first time. Daniel Day-Lewis almost quit acting before. I think it was the movie The Boxer was his last movie, and then he was working as a cobbler in Italy before Martin Scorsese convinced him to come back into acting to do Gangs of New York, which he did, and he played the butcher, Bill the Butcher Cutting, and that was it. And then he just kept doing roles after that. And Daniel Day-Lewis is the only performer in history to win 3 Best Actor Oscars. He won it for My Left Foot, playing writer and artist Christy Brown. He won it for his character in There Will Be Blood, and the last time he won it was, of course, playing President Abraham Lincoln in Lincoln. And, of course, he was nominated for Gangs of New York, like I just mentioned, and he was also nominated for the film The Age of Innocence. And, of course, there's been a bunch of other films. The Last of the Mohicans was one of the one that I think a lot of people probably know him from. 9, The Crucible. He was in the Gandhi movie as well. So he's been around for a while. And whatever the case, if it's whatever personal case, maybe he's just done, maybe he's just tired. He's 60 years old. Maybe he can't really get into acting anymore. Like he can't like you said, he's a method actor, so he takes his craft very seriously and he goes really into it, and maybe it just takes it out of him a lot, and maybe he just can't really he can't really do it anymore. So I don't blame him for that. If you're gonna go off on a high note. So whatever the reason it is, maybe he'll come back to Hollywood. Maybe he'll come back and be a director. Who knows? But if he's really done with Hollywood, good for him. Tip of the hat to Daniel Day-Lewis for giving all those great performances. You're good for him. All right, that is all the news items that come out, at least at the time of this recording. Obviously, if anything big comes out, you guys can go check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/moviepit. That's facebook.com/moviepit. Or you can just go down to the description/show notes area and go click on the link that I have for you guys down there. Give me a like over there. It gives you guys an early preview of what we're going to talk about on the podcast. I do go a little bit more into the podcast, aka more swearing. Actually, no, that's not always the case. I don't really swear on the podcast that much. I do swear, I just don't swear a lot. Only when it's necessary. But it gives you guys an early preview of the podcast where we're going to talk about. Go like it. Give give me a like. I'll help you out over there. While you're down there, you can also go check out my WordPress account where I do written non-spoiler reviews. Obviously, here on the podcast, I will be coming back next week to do a spoiler review of Transformers: The Last Night. But in the meantime, you guys can go check out my non-spoiler reviews, written reviews over there, movieswithchris.wordpress.com. That's movieswithchris.wordpress.com. Also, while you're down there, I have an article up on the movies that I will be spoiler reviewing for the rest of the summer, pretty much, here on the podcast. So if you guys want to check that out, you got I got Transformers in there, you got Baby Driver on there. We'll be doing that for the rest of June. Of course, July, there's some big movies. In August, there's some big movies as well. You guys want an early preview of what I'm going to be spoiler reviewing? That's the best place to see what I will be reviewing. And let me know what you guys think of that. Also, while you're down there, I got my Twitter and my Instagram, so you guys go follow me over there as well. So go check that out. I am recording this a little earlier than I usually do, the podcast being because I think I won't have enough time to really get some last minute news items in on Friday. But whatever the case, if something big drops, obviously go to the Facebook page. And of course, we'll talk about whatever that big item is that comes out next week on the podcast. All right, so let's move on to this week's releases, shall we? So this week's releases, of course, we always start off with the limited releases of the week. The big limited releases of the week, we have the first film, The Bad Batch. It is a dystopian love story in Texas wasteland set in a community of cannibals. The movie stars Suki Waterhouse, Jason Momoa, Diego Luna, Giovanni Ribisi, Jim Carrey, and Keanu Reeves. This movie looks out there. Just put it out. I'm just gonna say that. It looks out there. Put it that way. The next movie is The Beguiled, based off the novel of the same name by Thomas Cullinan and directed by Sofia Coppola. At a girls' school in Virginia during the Civil War, where the young women have been sheltered from the outside world, a wounded Union soldier is taken in. Soon the house is taken over with sexual tension, rivalries, and an unexpected turn of events. The film stars Nicole Kidman, Kirsten Dunst, Elle Fanning, and Colin Farrell. I've seen the trailer for this a few times now, and it doesn't look too bad. Sofia Coppola is one of those directors, whether you really like her movies or you don't, and you never really know. You can't really base them off the trailers. This movie looks good. I'm looking forward to this. Again, it is a limited release, so I don't know if I'll be watching it this weekend, but if I do, obviously you guys will know, and we'll see. I am looking forward to this. It looks pretty interesting. Alright, so the final limited release this week. This one will be getting a wide release rollout next month, so when it gets the wide release and expanded release, I will let you guys know again. But it's coming out limited release this week. It's The Big Sick. It's written by Emily V. Gordon and Kumail Nanjiani. The movie is actually based off their love story, off their actual life. A couple deals with their cultural differences as the relationship grows. And the movie actually stars Kumail Nanjiani as himself, while Zoe Kazan will play Emily V. Gordon in the movie. The film also stars Ray Romano and Holly Hunter as Emily V. Gordon's parents in the film. I'm actually looking forward to this one. It's been getting some pretty good, decent reviews from the film festival circuit. It opened at a film festival. I forgot which one it was, but it was getting some really good reviews, and everyone's saying it's really, really good. And I'm a huge fan of both of them. I'm a huge fan of Kumail Nanjiani and Emily V. Gordon. So I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see this. It's been getting good reviews, and the trailer looks funny. It looks like a nice, fun, not fun because it's Emily V. Gordon in the movie. He's in the hospital most of the time, but it looks like a fun little quirky romance comedy drama. It does. That's what it looks like. All right. So those are your limited releases of the week: The Big Sick, The Beguiled, and The Bad Batch. And of course, your wide release of the week this week is Transformers: The Last Night. It's another Transformer movie, guys. It's another one. Because we all love them. That's not true. Humans and Transformers are at war. Optimus Prime is gone. The key of saving the future lies in the buried secrets of the past and hidden history of Transformers on Earth. I don't care. I honestly don't care about this movie anymore. The only reason I'm going to go watch this movie is because my sister is forcing us to. That's it. I don't care about this movie anymore. I don't care about the franchise. I enjoyed the first one, and they've just gotten dumber and dumber since. I don't care. They're just noise now at this point. It's just basically turning off my brain and just it's not even like being a kid again, because it's like they're not even the same Transformers anymore. I'm done with this movie. So there you go, limited release. Let's move on to the box office predictions of the week. My box office picks last week were wrong because I apparently thought Rough Night would make a lot more money than it did. So my picks last week were Cars 3 at number 1, Wonder Woman at number 2, Rough Night at number 3, The Mummy at number 4, and All Eyes on Me, the Tupac movie, at number 5. I was wrong, guys, and I knew I was wrong. I didn't really feel my picks were right last week. So the actual box office at the beginning of the week this week was Cars 3 at number 1, Wonder Woman at number 2, All Eyes on Me at number 3, The Mummy at number 4, and 47 Meters Down came in at number 5. I should have figured that because it's a shark movie. It's aimed for teeny boppers. Aimed for teeny boppers and me, who went to go watch it, who is not a teeny bopper anymore. So yeah, Rough Night came in at number 7 last week, by the way, if you wanted to see how wrong I was with that. So my picks this week, I'm pretty sure it's very obvious. Transformers: The Last Night's going to be number 1 because people just like watching their money burn. So Transformers: The Last Night will be number 1. Cars 3 will be number 2. Wonder Woman will be number 3. All Eyes on Me will continue at the top 5 at number 4. And The Mummy will be number 5 at the box office this week. So those are my picks. For the week. Transformers: The Last Night at number 1. Cars 3 at number 2. Wonder Woman at number 3. All Eyes on Me at number 4. And The Mummy at number 5. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. Thank you once again for hearing me just ramble on and on and on and on and on and on, and hear my nonsense. You hear me get angry. I think it gets good when I get angry on the podcast every once in a while. I think it lines it up a little bit. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. You guys are great. You guys can catch me here on depending on where you're listening to this. I don't know where you're listening to this. You can be listening to this on YouTube or on SoundCloud or on iTunes. That's right. I'm on iTunes now. I was going to wait to put my podcast on iTunes next year, but I did it this year as a test, and I'm on iTunes. Yeah. Suck it. Or I don't know anymore. Who knows? Maybe they'll kick me out. But yeah, for the moment, I am on iTunes now. The podcast is up on iTunes at the Movie Pit. I will put a link down below in the description / show notes area in case you're listening to this on SoundCloud and on YouTube. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, that's some good news for the week for me. So yeah, again, I'm listening to this. I'm recording this a little earlier than I usually am. I still will be releasing this on Friday, but obviously you guys will know when I'll be releasing this because you guys will see it. But I'm recording a little earlier just because I got some stuff to do. So yeah. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. You guys are great. You guys are always great. I really appreciate it if you listen. And let me know what you guys thought of the craziness of what the movie news was this week. It was crazy. It's pretty cray. So let me know down below in the comments. Yeah. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, please subscribe. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, please subscribe. And if you're listening to this on SoundCloud, please subscribe or follow. It's follow, right? I forget which one it is. But subscribe, like, comment, review. Just give me all that so I know you guys are listening and you guys can help me out and make me get better. I know I'm not perfect on this just yet. So I want to get better. I want the podcast to get better. I want it to grow. So help me out, guys. Help me out a little bit. Yeah? Please? All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. Be sure to tune in early next week. I will be doing a review for Transformers: The Last Night up on the up for the spoiler review podcast of the week next week at the beginning of the week. And of course, I will be back at the end of the week next week for the movie news roundup. So thank you guys so much for listening to this week. Have a good, fun, safe weekend. Or if you're listening to us on the weekend, have a good rest of the weekend. And be safe out there. Care for each other. Don't be mean. Don't be a dick. And that wasn't geared toward anyone. I was just saying that. I don't know what I was saying. I was just trying to be funny. So yeah, have a good, safe, fun weekend, guys. Be safe out there. Care for one another. Be nice. And of course, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movie!